It's 6:47 p.m. The temperature is 41 degrees. You're in the Appalachians, 2 miles from the trailhead, maybe 3. Your tent poles snapped when you set up. The rain started 20 minutes ago. Your base layer is already damp. You're not lost. You're not panicking. You've camped before. And that confidence, that exact sense of I've done this, I know what I'm doing, is what's going to kill you. Over 1,300 people die of hypothermia in the United States every year. They are not dying in Arctic whiteouts. They are not dying on Denali. The majority of hypothermia deaths recorded in this country happen at temperatures between 30 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Not extreme cold, not survival movie cold. The same temperature range as a spring camping trip, a fall hike, a late season hunt that ran long. You've been in those conditions before, and you survived. But here's the thing you need to sit with. That doesn't mean you were prepared. It means you were lucky. And luck has a way of running out at the worst possible time. This video is not about fear, it's about physics. And when you understand the physics, really understand it, you will never look at a cold, wet night the same way again. Ask most Americans when hypothermia becomes a real risk, and they'll say extreme cold, sub-zero temperatures, blizzard conditions, the kind of weather that gets a travel advisory and shuts down the interstate. They're wrong, and that misunderstanding is killing people. The CDC and statistical data on cold-related deaths in the US show something that should genuinely disturb you. The per capita death rate from hypothermia is highest in areas with normally mild climates, places like the Carolinas and Arizona, where temperatures swing fast and dramatically between day and night. Not Alaska, not Minnesota, the Southeast. Here's why. In genuinely Arctic regions, people know the cold is dangerous. They prepare for it. They respect it. But in the mid-Atlantic, the Pacific Northwest, the Great Lakes corridor, people underestimate. They go out in fleece. They don't bring a rain layer. They assume the forecast is the whole story. Wet 40-degree air is physiologically more dangerous than dry 20-degree air. That's not a metaphor. It's a measurement. Water conducts heat away from your body roughly 25 times faster than air. A 40-degree day with rain and wind can trigger hypothermia in a healthy adult in under 2 hours without shelter. And the terrifying part? The early symptoms. Confusion, poor decision-making, a strange sense of calm, mimic the feeling of being fine. The threat isn't at the edge of the map. It's on the trail you drove an hour to reach. It's at the campsite you've been to 4 times. It's in the conditions that felt manageable right up until they weren't. Your body right now is generating roughly 100 watts of heat. That's the output of an old-school incandescent light bulb. At rest, just keeping your organs running, your blood circulating, your core temperature stable at 98.6 degrees F. That heat is being stolen from you constantly, and it's being stolen through 3 specific mechanisms, not 1. Understanding all 3 is the entire difference between someone who survives a cold night and someone who doesn't. Conduction, direct contact with a cold surface, ground, rock, wet fabric, pulls heat straight out of your body. No wind required, no rain required, just contact. The earth at 50, 55 double of the jet creates a 40+ degree differential against your body, and it never gets tired of pulling. Convection. Moving air strips the warm layer off your skin continuously. This is wind chill, but it's also the breeze you barely notice. A 10 meter-an-hour wind at 40 degrees is not 40 degrees as far as your body is concerned. It's much colder, and it compounds with every degree of wetness in your clothing. Radiation. Your body emits infrared heat in all directions all the time. Out your head, out your torso, into the open air around you. In a warm room, that's fine. The surfaces around you radiate back. In an open field at night, you're bleeding heat into a sky that gives nothing back. 3 vectors, all 3 operating simultaneously. The cold isn't attacking you. Physics is systematically dismantling your thermal margin, and your gear, your beautiful, expensive gear, was designed to address some of these vectors, not all of them, which brings us to where people start dying. Here's the thing they don't put on the hang tag of your sleeping bag. When you lie down in that bag, your body weight compresses the insulation underneath you. The loft, the airy, trap heat, keep you alive loft, goes to near zero in the zones where you need it most. Back, hips, Shoulders. The rating on that bag, it assumes you have a pad underneath, a quality pad, in real conditions, on ground that isn't frozen, sloped, or waterlogged. Most people don't have that pad, or they have one that's too thin, or the ground is wetter than they expected, and they lie there, wondering why they're cold in a bag rated to 15 degrees Celsius, slowly losing the thermal battle to earth they cannot see and cannot feel until the shivering starts. This is one of the most well-documented and most consistently ignored failure modes in backcountry cold weather survival. Gear companies can't make money telling you that their $300 sleeping bag has a major design flaw in exactly the situation you need it most, so they don't. The ground is not neutral. It is the largest, most consistent heatsink in any outdoor survival situation, and it never stops pulling. At 55 degrees Celsius, which is approximately the average year-round temperature of soil across most of the continental US, that differential against your 98.6 degrees Celsius core is relentless. Not dramatic, not violent, just steady, patient, like it has all the time in the world. Because it does. 200,000 years? That's roughly how long our species has been solving this exact problem. How to stay warm in cold, wet conditions with nothing but what's around us. Before REI, before Gore-Tex, before the $400 sleeping bag rated to temperatures it can't actually deliver. The debris hut is the answer that survived that entire span of human history. And it survives because it works with the three mechanisms we just talked about, not against them. Here's the physics. Dead organic material, dry leaves, pine needles, dried grass, contains millions of micro air pockets. When you pack enough of it around a small enclosed space, those air pockets stop moving. Trapped, still air is one of the best insulators that exists. It's why down works. It's why fiberglass insulation works. The debris hut is just doing the same thing, at scale with free materials in under 2 hours. Your body generates that 100 watts. In a debris hut sized correctly to your body, that heat has nowhere to go. The ground contact is addressed by bedding packed 6 to 8 inches thick underneath you. Loose debris doesn't compress under weight the way foam compresses, because each new layer settles independently. The convective heat loss is eliminated because air inside the shelter is still. The radiation loss is recaptured because the debris walls re-emit your heat back at you. No zipper to fail in the rain. No stuff sacked to lose in the dark. No battery, no fuel canister, no price tag. A well-built debris hut can maintain an internal temperature that is 60 to 70 degrees warmer than the air outside it, not because it generates heat, because it refuses to let yours leave. Here's the build, all of it. No vague guidance, measurable steps, specific enough to execute under stress. Step 1. The ridgepole. Find a straight branch or sapling 10 to 12 feet long. One end rests on a fork in a tree or a sturdy Y-shaped branch at roughly chest height, about 4 feet off the ground at the head end. The other end rests on the ground. This is the spine of your shelter. Everything else builds off it. Step 2. The A-frame ribs. Lean branches and sticks along both sides of the ridgepole at 45-degree angles like the ribs of a fish. Dense as you can manage. These don't need to be lashed. The weight of debris will hold them. Space them every 6 to 8 inches along the full length. Step 3. Perpendicular lattice. Layer thinner sticks across the ribs, perpendicular to them. This creates a net that catches and holds the debris before it slides off. Don't skip this step. Without it, your insulation layer will collapse. Step 4. The debris. Pile loose organic material over the entire frame. Leaves, pine needles, dry grass, ferns. Minimum 30 inches thick on all sides. That's not a typo. Arm's length depth. More is better. More is warmer. Every inch of additional depth improves thermal performance. Step 5. Interior bedding. Pack 6 to 8 inches of loose debris on the ground inside. This is your insulation from the ground, the most critical and most overlooked layer. Step 6. The door plug. Stuff a pile of debris into a garbage bag or bundle it in your jacket. This is your door. It must seal tightly. Every gap is a convection channel. Every convection channel is heat leaving your body all night long. Test before you sleep in it. Crawl inside and have someone else look for light penetrating the walls. If they can see light, cold air can enter. Every instinct in your body is going to tell you to build it bigger. You'll think, more room to move, more comfortable, better sleep, and in every other context in your life, bigger would be the right call. Bigger hotel room, bigger tent, bigger truck. In a debris hut, bigger is a death sentence, issued slowly, 1 cold hour at a time. Every cubic inch of air inside your shelter is air that your body has to heat. Your 100-watt thermal output is fixed. It doesn't increase because you decided to add 3 feet of interior length. That extra air volume just means the space never reaches survivable warmth. And you spend the night in a shelter that feels like it should be working but isn't. You can't figure out why you're still cold. And you make the next mistake. You think the problem is the shelter, when the problem is you didn't understand what the shelter needs to do. A properly sized debris hut is barely larger than your body. Crawl space only. Your shoulders might brush the sides. Your feet nearly touch the door plug. When it feels claustrophobically tight, that's correct. That's working. At 20 degrees Celsius outside, a body-sized debris hut can reach 60 to 70 degrees Celsius inside from your body heat alone within roughly 1 hour. That's not a campfire. That's not chemical heat packs. That's you. A 100-watt furnace in a well-insulated room that's just large enough. Bigger is colder. Smaller is survival. Internalize that. It runs against everything your instincts tell you in the moment. Now we get into the detail that separates a one-night emergency shelter from a multi-day survival asset. Wet debris loses up to 90% of its insulating value, not 30%, not half, 90%. A debris hut soaked by rain or saturated by the moisture from your breathing is no longer a shelter. It's a damp pile of organic material with you inside it, and it will kill you just as surely as sleeping in the open. 1 garbage bag. That's the fix. Place a layer of plastic sheeting. A standard 55-gallon black trash bag works perfectly, split open along the seam between the inner lattice of sticks and the outer debris layer. Not on the outside, where rain would channel it into the ground. Between the frame and the debris, this keeps the interior moisture from your breathing and your body from migrating outward into the insulation layer and saturating it. On the outside, a second layer of bark shingles, overlapping like fish scales, thick side up, sheds rain before it penetrates. It takes an extra 20 minutes to add. In a 2-day rain event, those 20 minutes are the difference between a shelter that holds and one that collapses into a wet, useless mass around you. 1 garbage bag. You probably have 1 in your bag right now. If you don't, add it this weekend. It weighs nothing, costs nothing, and transforms the thermal longevity of the most effective primitive shelter ever built by human hands. This is the upgrade that most survival instructors forget to mention. Don't. Let's talk about fire. Specifically, let's talk about why most people use fire wrong in a cold shelter situation. The instinct is to build a big fire and sleep as close to it as safely possible. You've seen it in movies. It feels right. It's also enormously inefficient. Most of the heat radiates upward and outward, away from you, into a night sky that doesn't need warming. The debris hut changes the equation. A small fire, palm-sized, carefully managed, positioned between a log reflector wall and your shelter entrance, creates a directed radiant heat channel. The reflector wall is just a flat log, or stacked stones angled to bounce heat toward you. The shelter entrance traps that heat as it enters. The debris walls hold it. The math is completely different from open fire camping. You burn less wood. You generate more warmth where it actually matters, inside the thermal envelope you've already built. Less fuel, more outcome. Less risk of a fire that spreads. More control over a fire that serves. This is systems thinking in survival. The shelter isn't plan B when fire fails. It's the structure that makes fire 10 times more effective. They work together. One amplifies the other. A debris hut with directed radiant heat at the entrance and a tightly sealed door plug is not a primitive emergency solution. It's a more thermally efficient sleep system than most modern tents, in wet cold conditions, with materials that cost nothing. The gear industry has no interest in explaining this to you. Here's where the data challenges something that feels like common sense. When 2 people are in trouble in the cold, the instinct is to split up. Cover more ground. 1 person goes for help, 1 person stays. It feels logical. Maximize your reach, double your chances. Statistically, it often doubles the death toll instead. 2 bodies in a shared debris hut generate twice the thermal output in a space that needs only slightly more volume than 1 body. The temperature inside that shelter rises faster, holds higher, and holds longer with 2 people. The thermal gain isn't linear, it's disproportionate. 2 people in one correctly sized hut is not twice as warm as 1 person. It's meaningfully warmer than that because the air volume hasn't doubled even as the heat output has. And here's the psychological layer on top of the physics. Hypothermia impairs judgment, measurably, documented, before it impairs physical function. The person who goes for help, cooling alone, begins making poor decisions before they realize they're impaired. The person who stays warm slowly, without the behavioral cues that signal worsening condition, because there's no second person to notice the change. Staying together in cold survival scenarios is not emotional support. It's not optimism. It's thermal arithmetic and cognitive redundancy. 2 people watching each other for the signs of impairment that neither can see in themselves. Splitting up is almost never the right call. The documented case history of wilderness survival fatalities makes this pattern impossible to ignore. You can build a perfect debris hut, correct dimensions, 30 inches of debris, vapor barrier, body-sized interior, tight door plug, and still die in it. If you built it in the wrong place, location accounts for at least 40% of shelter thermal performance. Here's what that means in practice. Cold air drains downhill. It's denser than warm air and pools in valleys and depressions the same way water does. Low ground campsites can run 10 to 15 degrees colder than a mid-slope position 50 yards up the hillside. You can't feel this difference when you choose the site. You will feel it at 3 a.m. Dead trees fall at night. Thermal contraction in wood fiber, combined with wind and compromised root systems, means widowmakers, standing dead trees, drop without warning more often after dark. Build away from any standing dead wood. Everyone. Wind channels destroy insulation efficiency. A ridgeline feels like the obvious high ground. Exposed ridges also funnel wind. Even a 10 mpm wind at your debris hut entrance negates significant thermal retention. Seek micro-terrain that breaks wind. A boulder, a dense thicket, a slope that faces away from prevailing weather. Drainage zones concentrate cold and wet. The base of a slope is where water moves. And where water moves, the ground is colder, wetter, and less stable for building. The south-facing rock face is your ally. A large rock or cliff face with southern exposure absorbs solar radiation all day and re-emits it as radiant heat through the night. Positioning your shelter entrance toward that face, 5 to 10 feet away, gives you a passive heat source that costs nothing and requires no maintenance. The debris hut is a tool. Like every tool, its performance depends on where and how it's deployed. Let's stop talking about physics for a moment. Let's talk about the decision you won't make in time. Survival instructors call it the "I'll wait and see" failure mode, and it kills more people than cold air, wet debris, or the wrong campsite combined. You feel a little cold. You decide to walk a little faster to warm up. The shivering gets persistent, but it's not that bad. Your hands are clumsy, but you can still manage the zipper on your pack. You make 3 small bad decisions in a row: wrong trail fork, didn't eat, ignored the rain moving in, and each one felt like a manageable choice at the time. This is hypothermia's most effective weapon. It degrades the exact cognitive capacity you need to recognize and respond to it. Judgment impairment begins before shivering becomes violent. Decision-making slows before your hands stop working. You don't feel like you're in danger. You feel like you're just a little uncomfortable. And a little uncomfortable is not an emergency, right up until it is. The rule that wilderness medicine instructors use is simple and absolute. Build shelter before you need it, not when you're already shivering, not when the light is failing, not when you've tried everything else. When conditions change toward cold and wet, you build. When daylight has 2 hours left and you're not out, you build. When your clothes are damp and the temperature is dropping, you build. The people who survive unexpected cold nights share one trait documented across case after case. They made the decision early. They did not wait to see how bad it got. They did not talk themselves out of the urgency. They read the conditions, they acted, and they were inside a shelter before the worst of it arrived. That decision, made at the right moment, is not skill. It's a choice. And you can make that choice right now, before you're ever in that situation, simply by deciding that you will not wait. Here's what nobody in the survival industry wants to say out loud. Gear fails. Not sometimes, reliably, predictably at the worst possible time. Zippers fail in wet cold, poles snap under load, insulation compresses to nothing under body weight, batteries die, fuel canisters leak. The 400 dogless tent that looked bulletproof in the REI display is a different object in 36-hour Appalachian rain. And behind all that gear, behind every layer, every product, every piece of equipment you've invested in, there is a body that runs on physics. Heat loss through conduction, convection, and radiation, a 100-watt thermal output that does not negotiate. A core temperature that operates in a range of less than 4 degrees Fahrenheit before cognitive function begins to degrade. The debris hut is not a primitive fallback. It is a demonstration that the laws of thermodynamics don't care about your price point. A pile of leaves assembled correctly in the right location, the right size, with the right interior bedding. That pile of leaves will outperform modern shelter equipment in the specific conditions that kill the most Americans: wet, cold, moderate temperatures, the conditions you drove to reach. Knowledge is not the same as gear. You can lose gear. You can forget gear. You can buy gear that doesn't perform as advertised, but the understanding of why the ground kills faster than the air, why smaller is warmer, why staying together is thermal strategy, that knowledge travels with you every time you leave the driveway. Every person who has survived an unexpected night in the wilderness shares one thing across thousands of documented cases. They understood their environment well enough to use it, not fight it. Use it. The forest doesn't care about your gear list, but it will shelter you if you know how to ask. So, here's what I want you to do this weekend. Not buy something, not watch another video. Go find a patch of woods. It doesn't have to be deep, it doesn't have to be remote. And build one of these, with your hands, with whatever's on the ground. Fail safely, while failure just means a cold night and a good story. Before failure means something you cannot come back from. Because here's the truth. The gap between the person who survives that unexpected night and the person who doesn't is almost never gear. It's almost never fitness. It's almost never luck. It's whether they ever took 2 hours on a normal Saturday to ask themselves, what would I actually do? Drop a comment below right now. Tell me, have you ever built a debris hut? Have you ever slept in one? Or is this the first time you're hearing that leaves and sticks might outperform your tent and you're not sure whether to believe it? I read every single comment. Every one. If this video gave you something real, something you didn't know 30 minutes ago, hit that like button and subscribe to Survive 72. Because on this channel, we don't sell you gear. We give you the knowledge that works when gear fails. And that knowledge doesn't have a price tag. The forest was here before the first tent was ever made. It'll be here after the last one fails. Learn to use it.